Hey guys, welcome back to another AP Sports video. Today I'm going to be talking about the Memphis Grizzlies and why I believe they're the most underrated team in the NBA. The Grizzlies this season have been missing their second best player, Jaren Jackson Jr., and have still found success. Now that is something that might not seem super incredible just because the Memphis Grizzlies are not the most highlighted team in the world, but their record shows that they are a premier team in the NBA, especially in this super competitive Western Conference. Not only have they had to deal with this injury of Jaren Jackson Jr., but John Morant also missed 8 games, and he was last year's Rookie of the Year and looks to be in the future a perennial All-Star. Jonas Valanciunas has also gotten COVID. Justice Winslow is playing basketball for the first time in over a year, and other players in their lineup have also missed games here and there. So their lineup has continued to change, but the Grizzlies have somehow managed to pull off a better 500 record after beating the Wizards tonight. I actually am not entirely sure if they won that game, but they were up by 13 with 3 minutes left last time I saw it. So Jaren is set to come back a little after the All-Star break, obviously, which will help the team a ton. He's coming back from a torn meniscus, and I think by the end of the year, because of this return, this team could easily be in the playoffs. Now, I don't want to necessarily say they will be in the playoffs just because there's going to be a lot of rust that comes with coming back. You've already seen that from a guy like Justice Winslow. So I don't want to rush Jaren by any degree, but this team, even without Jaren, looks to be competing. So I would not be shocked if they're in the playoffs. The Grizzlies only 2 seasons ago were headlined by a 31-year-old Mike Conley and a 34-year-old Marc Gasol. That has changed quite a bit. They won 33 games that season and ended up in the lottery. This team has shifted dramatically since trading away both of those older players and is looking towards the future. Now, the Memphis Grizzlies front office has executed flawlessly in these last couple seasons, and you may think that their success is all attributed to getting that second pick in last year's lottery, but it's not. The Grizzlies have found diamonds in the rough that are all playing above expectation. With the Grizzlies being in such a small market, it's very hard for them to attract free agents, so they have to build through the draft and through other trades. The Grizzlies have Jaren and Ja as their cornerstones, both of whom were drafted in the lottery. But the Grizzlies have not only done a great job drafting them, but have done an incredible job really building a supporting cast. So players like Jonas Valanciunas and Justice Winslow, both of who are also former lottery picks, they were acquired by the Grizzlies in trades. And then you look at Tyus Jones, Dylan Brooks, Desmond Bane, Brandon Clark, Xavier Tillman, John Conchar, D'Anthony Melton, Killian Tilly, and Jonte Porter. All of those players were drafted within the last 3 seasons, other than Tyus Jones, who was drafted 5 seasons ago, by the Grizzlies late in the first or second round. So none of those guys are lottery guys, and they all have a spot on this team, and were all drafted by the Grizzlies. So the Grizz also aren't scared to pick up young guys with a lot of potential. Those are guys like Jonte Porter and Killian Tilly. Both suffered injuries in their college careers, but in high school were very highly touted. They don't do that super often, but with Jonte and Killian, both guys are 6'11" and can shoot the 3 and play make. That's a risk that they were willing to take. The Grizz also pick up guys that have been known for their hard work and have seen winning cultures, like Kyle Anderson, who was in San Antonio, as well as Gorgui Dieng, who is now relatively far along in his 7-year career. Zach Kleiman has taken a different approach. He's the Grizzlies' GMs. He's taking a different approach than much of the NBA. While other NBA teams are fantasizing over a second-round steal, someone that potentially has had off-the-court issues but has shown a ton of potential, he's hitting on all of these picks with players that are a little bit older. He's not necessarily concerned with age when it comes to drafting these players. For some reason, a lot of these teams are so basically just infatuated with the idea that they're going to build a super young core. A guy that's 21 is not that much older than a guy that's 19 or 20. So Kleiman has realized that and has done an incredible job evaluating these guys' talent, especially when they have more film for Zach to watch. So they're taking a lot of these older guys out of college, and the Grizzlies have basically been successful this year because of this. They have reliable players coming off their bench, all with college experience, and they've all played at very high levels collegiately. One example would be Xavier Tillman. Xavier Tillman came in this season as the 3rd, 4th string center. If you count Jaren in there, 4th. You also have Brandon Clark. He doesn't really play a whole lot of center, but you could potentially say 5th. But he started at some points this season due to injuries. Now, Xavier came in and immediately filled in with little to no adjustment period and made an incredible difference. in particular in a game against the Suns. Now, a lot of people tune in this game. Obviously, this is one of the Grizzlies games I tuned into. I don't necessarily watch a ton of Grizzlies games, so I got to watch this one the whole way through, and it was incredible what he did. So DeAndre Ayton, one of the premier bigs in this league, a former number 1 overall pick, was basically, stifled in this game. And it's not because Xavier's a big guy. He's not. But his defensive positioning was incredible, and he was essentially just able to out-hustle him and get in his grill, kind of. Now, the Grizzlies have players like this all across the board. They have guys like Grayson Allen, who fits a similar mold. He's one of those guys that has a specific role, and he's going to come in there and work hard. He's in there to hit threes and really just bring intensity. He may not be the best defensive player, but he will bring defensive intensity. Now, they have a lot of players like this that all contribute to this Grizzlies bench and even sometimes contributing as starters when injuries happen, and that's kind of why they have a lot of double-digit scores. They have the potential for any player to go off any game. Any player can be an issue. Another guy I really like is a rookie from this season, Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane is an incredible knockdown three-point shooter and has throughout the year been able to build on his offensive arsenal, now taking some pull-up mid-range. And then you have rotational guys who have been drafted 2 or 3 years ago, like Brandon Clark and Dillon Brooks. Brandon Clark last year and this year has been incredible. This year he started. Last year he came off the bench when Jaren was healthy. He has the ability to stretch the floor and hit threes. He's physical on defense, and he's a great lob threat. Dillon Brooks, although Grizzlies fans may not be happy with him all the time because of his occasional shot chucking, does provide incredible defensive intensity and is a very good defender. He's had to guard incredibly tough assignments, one of which is Zion Williamson. Obviously, I watched basically the entirety of that one. And he's also had to guard guys like DeMar DeRozan, and has done it very, very successfully, I might add, especially against DeMar DeRozan. Now, you look at this roster, all those guys I just mentioned, and one thing that's painful for me, obviously, is you look at the talent that they have. They have 2 great players, one of which they haven't had all season. Then you look at a team like, let's say, the Timberwolves, the New Orleans Pelicans. The Timberwolves and Pelicans both have 2 All-Stars on their teams. Both have significantly worse records than this Memphis Grizzlies team. And you can argue that it's just maybe they want it more. That may be fair, but at the end of the day, it really comes down to, the supporting cast. The people don't realize how valuable and important that is, but it's not only the supporting cast, it's also the coaching. And the Grizzlies have done a great job finding a great coach. So these players all fit into Taylor Jenkins' system. Taylor Jenkins is the 36-year-old head coach of this Memphis Grizzlies roster. That is an incredibly young head coach, something that the average viewer may not know, but he's been an incredible basketball mind for this team. And the Memphis Grizzlies are very, very rarely beat on mental errors. He's done an incredible job despite being so young, and he's been able to grow with this team. He's going to be able to grow with this team for a while because of his age. And this will allow for really him to just get to know the personnel better and honestly the NBA better. I think he'll become a better coach despite already being so great, just because he was kind of thrown into the fire at such a young age. And so this year, the Memphis Grizzlies are the leader in steals per game, which is incredible, and they have the second most assists per game. Now, this can be attributed to Taylor Jenkins, his system, but it can also be attributed to the attitude of their cornerstones. That is Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. Ja Morant is going to play incredibly hard every single night, whether it's off of an injury or not. He's been great this year. He's slowed down a little bit after coming back from his injury, but still is putting up great numbers, averaging around 18 points and around 10 assists per game. Those numbers could be a little off. I actually don't have those written down in front of me. But he's been really good, and he might not be the greatest scorer in the world. He doesn't have the best three-point shot in the world. He's not the most aggressive guy in the world. But he does do a great job of finding his teammates and keeping his teammates' heads up. He seems to always be encouraging guys on the court, off the court. It doesn't really matter, but it's hard to get this guy down. That's similar to Jaren Jackson Jr. Both have battled injuries and both have not been happy about being injured, but they've done a great job interacting with their teammates and keeping spirits high. Now, Ja is a little undersized on the defensive end, but what he lacks in size, he brings in intensity. And then a couple things about Jaren Jackson is he is an incredible stretch big. He is almost every NBA GM's dream. He's an incredible three-point shooter, can play center, can play power forward, incredibly gifted defender, but he does have a couple issues, one of which is rebounding. He's not the best rebounder in the world, and he has a really, really bad issue fouling too early. He can sometimes get taken out of games because of his foul trouble. But I think if he learns to go vertical on a lot of those block attempts and becomes a better rebounder, he honestly may even end up being better than Ja Morant on this team. That's no diss to Ja Morant. I'm just saying both of these guys have incredible potential, but are also great team players, and both clearly want to be in Memphis, it seems. That's not something you see from a lot of guys. Some guys are just great, and it's not necessarily team specific, but these guys want to play on this team and they want to play for this team. Now, before I end this video, I just wanted to give one quick shout out to Kyle Anderson. I'm going to show his stats from this year and last year, and I'm just going to let the numbers speak for themselves. I feel like a lot of Grizzlies fans, they have known who's going to win Most Improved Player, and it's a matter of time before the rest of the NBA wakes up to see that Kyle Anderson is this year's Most Improved Player. But all jokes aside, the fact that a guy like Kyle Anderson, who on his career is not averaging a whole lot of points, a whole lot of really anything, can contribute that well on a team like this speaks a lot to the Memphis culture and the fact that every single person on this roster can step up and play well. And that's why I think this team in the coming years honestly has a shot to be contenders. And that's not an exaggeration. And that obviously pains me as a Pels fan, but I am super optimistic about this team's future, and I love watching Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. So if you guys enjoyed this style of video, I know it's a little different. Don't have the face cam, forgot my tripod. Let me know if you enjoyed it, and I look forward to the next video. So see you guys next time. Peace.